Hello, it's Reija, and it's time for the last Top 5 Wednesday of January. This week's theme is underrated books. If you're new to Top 5 Wednesdays, I'll leave the link to the Goodreads group down in the description, so you can check it out. Now let's get started. So for my top 5 underrated books, I'm going with books that might have been popular a few years back or when they were first published, but that don't really get acknowledged much in BookTube at least. Also, I'm including one graphic novel to round up the list because I couldn't find that many underrated books on my shelves. So here we go. First up, we have Luck in the Shadows by Lynn Fleveling. This is the first book of the Night Runner series, and it tells the story of Alec, Kerry, and Seragil, who get caught up in this kind of fantastical plot with lots of intrigue and mystery. And Seragil and Alec also are lovers in the book, so it has some LGBT themes, but they're not very in your face. This is more about the adventure and the plot and the circumstances that Seragil and Alec come across. And I think when I first found out about this series through a friend, and this series was quite popular, I think. But lately I don't hear anyone talking about it, even though the last book came out, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Like, it hasn't been that long since the series finished. But no one talks about it, especially on BookTube, so I thought I'd give it a go and recommend it. If you happen to see this in the library or in a store and this interests you, I would definitely recommend you to check it out. Luck in the Shadows, people. Go find it. Next, we have Swords Point by Ellen Kushner. This is probably one of my favorite books of all time. I am so excited about this book. I have reread it a bunch of times. I absolutely love the whole series, the Riverside series that Ellen Kushner has come up with. And this book is amazing and you should definitely go check it out. It's about this town where there's a university and nobles live on the other side of the town and the commoners live on the other side. The nobles have this setup that they hire swordsmen to duel for them. So no noble actually participates in duels anymore. That's like really outlandish and you should not do it. It's like preposterous that you should do your own duels. So they hire swordsmen to do the blood sport for them. And the story is about a swordsman called Richard and a noble called Alec. And they're also lovers. And it follows the escapades of these two and their relationship and how they navigate the class divide that's between them and also the intrigue and political machinations that happen in the city. And this book is marvelous. It is very well written. The characters are really well fleshed out. I absolutely love Ellen Kushner's writing style. She writes the most authentic characters you'll ever see. This book is amazing. And it has a cult following, but I don't think this book gets nearly enough recognition and praise like nowadays. Like, if I talk to people who are a lot younger than me, they don't even know this book. And they should, because it's awesome and you should definitely go read it. Now! Next up, we have The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. It is an urban fantasy that's set in a kingdom of elves. At the start of the book, this young boy called Maya finds out that he's going to be the emperor because his father and all his brothers died in a freak accident. So even though he had no hope of ever truly becoming an emperor because he was so low in the hierarchy, in the ranking, in the pecking order, he now finds himself having to take up the task of being a ruler. There's also the added bonus that he's only a half elf. He's half elf and half goblin, and goblins face a lot of like really bad racism from the elves. The match between Maya's father and his mother was a convenient like arranged match so that the neighboring kingdoms could have a treaty. So there's a lot of tension there. And Catherine Addison is a masterful wordsmith, and she does amazing world building. Like, the world building is one of the greatest things about this book. She has come up with like a system of honorifics and suffixes that takes inspiration from like Japan and Korea and stuff like that. Also, the characters are very well written. I also have other books by Catherine Addison on this list, though it is by her real name. Catherine Addison is actually a pen name. So I will be talking more about the world building aspects of those books also, but definitely go check out Goblin Emperor. It is very, very good. Next, I have here the two first books in the Doctrine of Labyrinth series by Sarah Monette, who also is Catherine Addison, as I previously mentioned. I'm including these first two books, Melusine and Virtu, as one book, because that's how they were meant to be. They were written as one big book, and then the publisher decided to chop them up into two. So Melusine has no real end. It just continues straight on into Virtu, so you should definitely read these two as one book. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk story and characters. These books are told from the point of view of two distinct characters, and they start their journeys from very different points, and then their stories intertwine in the middle of the first book, I think. And the story is urban fantasy. It's set in the city-state of Melusine, but the characters end up going to a lot of different places outside of Melusine in order to fix the trouble that has befallen the city because of the other main character got involved in some crazy shit. I really love these books. The characters are amazing. They are so flawed, so abhorrent sometimes, but also really easy to sympathize with. And they have this inner logic and consistency throughout the books. You will never think that these characters are out of character, because every time they do something that makes you go like, what? Why? You just need to pause and think about it, and then you will realize that, oh yeah, that's totally plausible. That's what they would do. Also, the world building is really great. Sarah Monette is very apt at creating really well fleshed out worlds that have a really rich history and a rich set of rules and conventions, naming conventions for things, that feels really logical and fleshed out even when she doesn't really tell us much about the world, like snippets and stuff. We only ever hear about the world when the characters are living the situation and thinking about the world, because we are constantly in their heads. One thing though about these books is that they have been out of print for quite some time, so if you want to check them out, I would recommend you go to the library or some flea market and try to find them there. And definitely go pick these up, they're great. Even if the size of these books may feel intimidating, they're actually quite fast to read. And last up, we have Wandering Sun by Shimura Takako, a graphic novel that tells the story of a young trans woman as she comes to grips with her identity and tries to navigate the Japanese society and find a place where she can be who she really wants to be without people judging her. This book is something that I feel people who may not enjoy manga usually should definitely pick up. It's very beautiful, it's very well written, and it has this very beautiful art style, very simplistic, very monochrome. And it's very well suited to the kind of childlike atmosphere, because this book starts when the main character is in elementary school. There's also an anime adaptation of this book that you can watch on Crunchyroll, but I would recommend you read the graphic novel first, because I find it's a bit more authentic than the anime. It's quite rough around the edges and has this kind of sketchy and whimsical feel to it that the anime adaptation doesn't quite manage to emulate fully, I feel. So definitely give this one a go also. And that has been my top 5 Wednesday, the last one of January. I made it. I did all 4. And if you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!